Welcome to the Custodial Support Forum. With each episode, we discuss issues related to one of the largest problems in America, child support. Hi, my name is Kai Patterson, and I'm your host. In this episode, we'll discuss issues related to child support and domestic violence. And we're going to provide solutions to custodial parents who are owed child support arrears and who are victims of domestic violence.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.
Welcome. We're discussing issues related to child support and victims of domestic violence. To discuss this issue, we have Alexandra Stremler, who is a family law attorney with more than 19 years' experience in child support-related issues. We have Antoinette Dismukes, a custodial parent owed more than $62,000 in child support arrears. We have Ben Kelson, who's an attorney and our legal analyst, and we have Susan DiGiacomo from the Division of Alternatives to Domestic Violence, the Bergen County Department of Human Services. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kai.
Okay, let's talk about domestic violence. What are the dynamics of domestic violence? Susan.
Well, when we look at domestic violence, we can look at what domestic violence is before we look at the dynamics.
Okay.
And domestic violence generally is intergenerational, and it's a learned behavior.
Okay.
And it's a behavior, a pattern of coercive behavior to gain power and control over another individual, to instill fear in the other party.
Okay, so it's not just about physical abuse. You didn't mention anything about battery. You said power and control.
Correct.
Okay.
The physical abuse, when we discuss the dynamics of domestic violence, we look at the cycle of violence and we look at the power and control wheel. When you look at the cycle of violence, you're looking at basically 3 phases.
Okay.
And that was created by Nora Walker on victims who experienced physical abuse.
Okay.
And the first phase is tension building, when things are getting a little bit rough, and then we go into the acute phase, when something physical actually happens.
Okay.
All right. The third phase, not every victim is going to experience it. It's the honeymoon phase. It's the phase where someone makes promises, sends flowers. I promise I will never hit you again.
Now that's the second or third phase?
That's the third phase that not every victim is going to experience.
Okay.
Okay? And that's why domestic violence isn't just all about physical abuse. It's not just about anger.
Okay.
Anger is only a very small component, and we focus so much on the power and control and the 8 psychological tactics that many abusers use. Now, a victim may not experience all 8, but they do experience like intimidation.
Gotcha.
Just shooting somebody a look. And our face, we have like 153 facial muscles.
Okay.
And that look means something to the victim.
Okay.
It means like, you know what, later we're going to have a problem. Then you have emotional abuse, putting somebody down. Another tactic, isolation, not letting someone have healthy relationships, keeping them away from family and friends. You have economic abuse. You have using the children. You have privilege. Now, privilege could be if an individual is undocumented and has immigration, using that issue. It could be male privilege. It could be someone who's a homosexual and saying, look, I'm going to put you out there.
Oh, so it's taking something that's personal or private that the individual may not want disclosed and threatening that person.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then
okay.
you have coercion.
Okay.
Coercion and threats. Everything kind of goes. Using the children is another one, like child support.
Okay.
You know,
Well, you know what? That's an interesting topic. Let's pause right there, because that brings us to how is child support impacted by domestic violence?
It actually gives the abusive parent a leg up
Okay.
on the victim. Okay? Because you could use child support. You could tell the children that, you know, we're getting this order and it's making me pay X amount of dollars and I can't afford it. It's telling the victim, you're never going to see a penny. I'm not paying anything. And then the children go on visitation. You have parenting time together and giving children gifts. And meanwhile, the custodial parent is not getting any money.
Okay.
And
right.
really is struggling just to provide the basic needs to the children.
All right, gotcha.
And that gets sticky too, because the custodial parent will drive a judge crazy if they turn around and say, you're not giving me my child support, I'm not letting you see the children.
All right, Alex.
Yeah, I want to say,
You wanted to add some points. I could see you wanted to talk. So
no, I just wanted to
Okay.
point out also that this control of money is something that often makes victims even afraid to attempt to get money from the system, and certainly because of fear of things like retaliation or additional abuse, they will avoid seeking the remedies that they have available to them because of the feelings of insecurity, because of the what is he going to do to my kids?
Exactly. That'll prevent them from filing altogether.
Right. And the
Oh, yeah,
thing,
that's
Because a custodial parent is always going to think safety before dollars,
okay.
before support of the child. They're always going to think safety first, especially if they've experienced any one of those characteristics that a non-custodial parent or custodial parent embody. So, you know, that's the first thing that prohibits a custodial parent from filing. Fear.
Okay.
Fear of confrontation, fear of being attacked, fear of being stalked, just fear, period, because they've experienced that person, they've had a relationship with that person. 9 times out of 10, they've felt their anger in one way, shape, form, or fashion, whether directly, indirectly.
Now, it's my understanding that if a domestic violence incident happens, a lot of times a child support, if a domestic violence incident happens and there is a report that that a child support order or temporary order may even be granted.
Well, now we're getting into if there's an incident,
Correct.
Right.
an incident of domestic violence. And when we look at domestic violence, we're looking at certain relationships. And of course here, when someone is a co-parent, there definitely is the relationship.
Okay.
A victim has to know that it's safe.
orders for both temporary restraining orders and final restraining orders have it's actually a checkoff box for support. Because of that very reason, judges know that when this non-custodial parent has a restraining order against him or her, they're going to be even less likely to be handing them over money for anything, including child support. And this way, the judge has an enforceable order right out of the final restraining order.
One of the other things that comes up is that when we put in a temporary restraining order, and we're basically saying there can be absolutely no contact whatsoever during the time the temporary restraining order is pending, until the final restraining order itself is actually determined, whether there will be one or not.
Okay.
The person who's not in custody of the children, the person who has the restraining order against them, is not allowed to have any contact whatsoever
Right.
with the victim. This particular component of the child support is a tremendously important aspect of the temporary restraining order and the final restraining order hearings, orders that are given out, in that they begin to lay the framework for people who are maybe not be aware of what exactly is it that's going to have to be accomplished here. What are we going to do? How are we going to take care of the children? If he's not coming home and bringing his paycheck, right, or he's not giving her an allowance, so to speak, which is another form of abuse, as Susan mentioned, how is she supposed to go buy food?
Right.
How is there supposed to be a payment for the car? How is there supposed to be babysitting?
Right.
How is there supposed to be clothing, sneakers, backpacks,
Right.
that sort of thing?
Okay.
So that's why this becomes a very important and integral part of the temporary restraining order, and why it's actually, as Alex mentioned, actually a box on the form to check off with a line next to it how much to give. It's not something that used to be an addendum as an afterthought, oh, I almost forgot, let me put this in. It's a box that the judge actually has to check off.
Quickly, do they calculate using the child support order statutes how much the custodial parent should receive at the time in which the temporary restraining order or the final restraining order is issued?
Probably not with the temporary, but with an FRO, they're going to do run guidelines,
Okay,
yes.
got it.
What many victims don't realize is that they can ask for emergent money
That's
to
what it
hold
is.
them over
Okay.
from the time that the incident occurs to the time that they're going to have their final restraining order hearing.
Well, you know what? That's a perfect point to. Let's take a break because we want to come back and we want to discuss solutions for custodial parents that are victims of domestic violence and child support related issues.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.
Welcome back. We're discussing issues related to custodial parents who are victims of domestic violence. What should a parent do if they think an incident of domestic violence may occur?
The first thing for a parent is to realize that domestic violence is something different than anger.
Okay.
Anger is an emotion that we all experience.
Now we're
and
talking about if they think it may occur.
if it may occur.
Gotcha. Hasn't occurred yet.
It hasn't occurred, but
Okay.
you know what? Taking apart what anger is and taking apart what domestic violence is very different. So it's not just anger, it's more than anger. You really need to identify the psychological
Okay.
characteristics that are going on in the relationship.
Okay.
And what's extremely important is to start safety planning, and starting to safety planning is to understand what your needs are,
Okay.
okay? And how are you going to keep yourself safe? And it's always best to work with a professional domestic violence agency.
Gotcha. So if you think an incident may occur, you should start planning, and you should go seek an agency, even if it hasn't occurred.
Yes.
Antoinette, were you ever in a situation where there was a confrontation where you felt that you felt some level of fear or intimidation?
No, I didn't necessarily myself. I didn't feel fear that prevented me from pursuing, a child support order. It was because of his behavior and him acting out that I actually did the opposite. I made sure I went because I didn't really want to have to deal with that one-on-one in the
Okay.
future, because I was dealing with it at that time, that
Okay.
ball of anger and power and control. I actually responded in the reverse manner to make sure that I went and put a mechanism in place, because I knew that if I had to continue dealing with him one-on-one, that it was going to escalate to another level, because I was
And that's where your equality.
looking at a big problem right there.
Gotcha.
But for a lot of parents and people in general, and I would just want to say, because I know we have other questions, is that they need to understand what it is, because domestic violence is not just a physical assault. It is the emotional, it is the power and control. So what you don't realize is that you've already experienced an episode before the episode actually occurs. So, they need to understand that when
Okay,
you think
yes. It's not
victim,
funny,
you
it's
only
right.
think victim in a sense of, oh, I didn't get hit. Prior to getting hit, there's a lot of behaviors that happen prior to, and you've already seen it.
Gotcha. Alex,
One
what are some
point-
things that a parent...
If I can just
Okay.
respond to this, because I think Antoinette brings up a really important dynamic that you were touching on. And in the safety plan, everybody's safety plan is going to be different.
Yes.
Everybody's
Not cookie
safety
cutter.
reaction.
Very much so.
And this is a perfect example of that.
Right.
What is something that every parent should consider as part of their safety plan? Give me an example, Alex. What
I
should you
think the parent who's concerned about their safety should definitely open bank account in their own name.
do? Okay.
I think, and obviously they're not going to be hoarding away all the money, but have something for a rainy day. I also think
That's a
that
good
they
point.
need to make sure that their close family members have
I
some
was
kind of
gonna
an
say it's
emergency
crucial
code.
that someone else knows
What's
what
going
is
on.
going on. And
Right.
in my family, and us growing up and me seeing domestic violence and things of that nature, because we have a lot of girls in the family, that we actually set a code within our family, a word that doesn't really mean anything to the possible abuser. You understand? Our word was thread.
Okay.
It could be anything. If we receive a phone call saying that I need some thread, we know that there is a serious situation going on to immediately get over there and notify the police. So you need to have a hot word. You have to tell somebody what's going on. That is key.
So that they
Key,
can be
key.
emotionally prepared to react to the situation.
It's not only that, it's important that that people know what's going on, because very often the natural tendency of a person who's a victim is to go within themselves and to withdraw.
Exactly.
And so
Yes.
therefore it's crucial that they make sure that they do not sever those connections with other people, that they actually make sure that there are people who know where they are. Many of these things, unfortunately, you see television movies, other things that we see, a woman goes missing.
Gotcha.
Where'd she go? This didn't come out of nowhere.
Gotcha. Okay,
And
we're going to have
what's
to...
really
Okay.
important is the reaction of family members when a victim comes and says, this is going on, that they get a supportive response, because too many times victims outreach and the response that they get either from family or from institutions pushes them away.
Okay, what should a custodial parent do to collect child support under a condition of domestic violence? Because that's important.
Be careful.
And I would say
And
always do
safety plan.
collections through a third party, be it probation, be it a private agency, be it a family member, whoever it is. Yeah, first of all, you aren't allowed to have contact anyway.
Okay.
If there's a restraining order.
Right, if there's a restraining order. But if you have that child support, often if there's no restraining order criminally, that there can be what's called an FD, which is for...
The FV.
no, that is the final restraining order.
Okay.
No,
All
if
right.
it's a final, it's a dissolution of two partners who are not married. But
Oh, FD
often
docket.
you can enter into one of those with what's called mutual civil restraints.
Okay.
And in that case, there's also going to be likely to be a child support order entered based on the child support guidelines.
What's
But
an
it's
FV docket?
FV?
An FV docket is referring to violence.
Okay.
What Alex is talking about is actually something very important for people to realize. There is a final restraining order which is enacted under the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act
Okay.
of 1991, at least in New Jersey. That is a statute which says that a violation of that restraining order is a criminal act and is punishable through the criminal justice system. There is something that Alex just referred to, which is called civil restraints, which utilizes the second branch, if you will, of our judiciary and our legal system, which is the civil system, which means that it's not a criminal act to violate, but you're both agreeing to civil rules, to rules within the civil court system as to how you're going to behave. The violation of those civil restraints may result in a contempt of court charge or hearing, but they are not in and of themselves a criminal act, which means, practically speaking, if there's a final restraining order granted under the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act, the violation of that restraining order, a text message, a phone call, a postcard, waving across the street, having a third party make contact, leads to an immediate arrest by the police.
Gotcha.
A violation of civil restraints requires the filing of a motion in the court to say this person violated the restraints that we had entered into and the agreement that we agreed on with signatures, but basically with a handshake in civil court. And those are two very, very different mechanisms.
But one similar component would be that typically both include an enforceable order for child support.
Right, correct.
Okay, Alex,
Yes.
you have something that you would like to share with Susan.
Yes. I am very excited to get to be the one to present you with this.
This is a letter from the Custodial Support Foundation to Susan DiGiacomo from the Bergen County Department of Human Services Alternatives to Domestic Violence Program, dated July 19th, 2012. Dear Ms. DiGiacomo, it is with great pleasure that I announce that the Custodial Support Foundation is donating 50 subscriptions to our collection program to Alternatives to Domestic Violence who are unemployed. These subscriptions will be provided at no cost to enable custodial parents who are owed arrears to receive investigative, legal, and collection services to recover child support arrears. It is clear that our clients' needs frequently intersect financially and emotionally. We believe that making this contribution will enhance the lives of custodial parents in your program and benefit the children affected by family violence. The Custodial Support Foundation applauds the work done in the protection of domestic violence victims by Alternatives to Domestic Violence and look forward to future collaboration with your agency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is fantastic.
Well, Alex, that's a wonderful gift to Alternatives to Domestic Violence.
Yes.
I'm sure that you will use those subscriptions to help custodial parents who are victims of domestic violence. We hope the 50 parents that are receiving those subscriptions, will benefit from the services of the Custodial Support Foundation.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.